try not to hate caves on this week.
Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts. Part 1. Initial thoughts.
Weeks. Hello again, Trek friends. Today we're talking about the 8th episode of Lower Deck's 4th season, Caves. A Paramount styrofoam cave set that has become ubiquitous across the franchise. Usually the setting for some boring to serviceable episodes of Trek, and this one is pretty on par with that. Let's get rid of the dislike counter, because I don't have any. This was a really nice, lighthearted episode, though I don't have a ton of likes either. But the first like I'm going to start with is for the joke I parodied during the intro in the main part of the show, where Mariner yells, "I hate caves," and her frustration carries across transport. It's both in keeping with a moody Mariner this season and absolutely hilarious. I had to try to keep from laughing so hard that I woke my family up watching this at 3 a.m. The first scene where they beam down, they detect gas. The Cerritos tries to beam them out, and everything goes dark. This is pretty close to a callback to TNG's Future Imperfect, where Riker ends up stuck in a cave with a kid. As the overall theme is the classic trope of being trapped in caves, all 4 of our main characters tell recent past tense stories about being trapped in caves to help come up with a way to get out, before a sentient moss completely overtakes the cave with them in it. Boimler's story sees him paired with conspiracy theorist Lieutenant Levy, who lets us know that 4chan is a place that's alive and well in the 24th century, as a place for people to trade made-up stories. Though one of these yarns would turn out to be right, as he calls back to the Vendorians from the animated series episode The Survivor, that, coincidentally, I just watched last night for some future content on this channel. And the story serves to really build out the lore of this race beyond being shapeshifters. I guess they have a thing where they put people in uncomfortable morality gambits to help them work out their problems, which in and of itself is a well-worn trope in Trek that calls back to a ton of episodes, and Arena is probably the most notable version of it. During all this, I have a like for Boimler getting really direct with Levy about Wolf 359 being a tragedy, Q existing, Picard not being a hologram, and Voyager's doctor is. I love watching conspiracy theorists being held to task, even if in this one instance, he actually had a hint of a clue of what's going on. Levy also brings up a conspiracy theory that's a callback to TNG's Force of Nature about warp travel damaging subspace, which is true, and a thread never touched on for almost 30 years between that episode and this one. Rutherford's story gets intensely personal as we find out that, not too long ago, he gave birth in a cave. While searching for a fern to cure Billups of a rash, their planetary guide is killed by a large beast in the cave, who transfers their base essence mind into Samanthan, which quickly leads him to give birth to a new form of this being. Good thing T'Ana was there to deliver, and I have a like for making him bite his own shoe during the birthing process. This whole scene is absolutely ridiculous, but absolutely perfectly Trek, right up to and including the Graflax just protecting its own young, and Rutherford tweaking the UT to state their intentions. I suppose Rutherford being pregnant is a small nod to Trip during Enterprise's Unexpected, and it's done much better here. Mariner's story is a tale of 2 shifts. It's been part of the background story for a while that there's a feud between our heroes on Beta Shift and the lowest of the lower deckers, Delta Shift, who have a gang of lookalikes. In this one, Mariner builds a bridge between them as they get stuck in a cave with her as mission commander, and her twitchy piloting skills leave Not Boimler with a badly broken leg. And the MacGuffin they need is here in the cave with them, that being Pergeum, first introduced in TOS's Devil in the Dark, and the mineral Ezri's family became known for mining. The problem here is how to get to the other end of the cave, because we revisit yet another overused Trek trope of chronotons, the series' timey-wimey particles that cause all sorts of time shenanigans. This particular one seems to be a callback mashup of two TNG episodes: Unnatural Selection, where Pulaski rapidly ages, and Final Mission, where Wesley Crusher has to outsmart an energy trap in a cave to gain access to water that will save Picard's life. Through aging, Mariner makes a new bond with Delta Shift, and we find out they're always bitter because they're never noticed. And I have a like for how Star Trek positive this turned out. By the end of Mariner's story, though, we see a side of our main characters we haven't seen before, where for the first time in the run of the show, they're downright frustrated with each other, to the point of not wanting to hang out anymore. This is when the cave fungus reaches its final sentient form, and pins them to the wall all Vox Sola style. It really wants to hear Tendy's story that Mariner keeps shutting down, because it's not a cave story. What it contains, though, is a like for going all the way back to the aftermath of the series pilot, Second Contact. In fact, this whole plot itself is pretty much a callback to something Mariner said in that inaugural episode, about the time she was stuck in a sentient cave. That's a dark place that knows things, which is a like in and of itself. In Tendy's story, while the ship is being cleaned up from the rage virus, our lower deckers pound down more than a couple of drinks, including what appears to be the ubiquitous Saurian brandy bottle being poured right down Mariner's throat. And this ain't synthahol. What really cemented their friendship on Tendy's first day on the ship and best day of her life was getting stuck in the turbo lift for hours, passing the time with a modified version of basketball horse, trivia, similar to when Harry and B'Elanna were trapped in Year of Hell, and just laying in a pile on each other with minimal clothes. Something we'd all like to be doing. Until Shax, in his perfectly Shax way, saves them. In the end, it turns out the cave just wanted a friend, and is happy Tendy's story helps repair their friendship. Turns out, this too is just another Vendorian morality gambit, and it's interesting to find that for all the entities in the galaxy that just want to stick you in a challenge for either their own amusement or research, there are also those that just want to help others get along. If that's not the most Star Trek message we could possibly get out of Lower Decks, I don't know what is. Considering we cover a bunch of different planets in this episode, all of them are fresh canon. Lower Decks almost always calls back to somewhere we've been before. And despite the episode's overall trope of caves being well-trodden ground in Trek, it was nice to set up a ton of brand new lore here. And there better be a graphic novel at some point about the time the Lower Deckers met doubles of themselves from the future. That's a story I'd like to know more about. We didn't touch on the season arc mystery ship in this one, but I'm sensing a theme of redemption and friendship this season. I wonder if that plays into it somehow. Last week on our show Buffer Time, we jokingly came to the conclusion that it's Kes, and at this point, that's as good of a guess as any. And I'm going with it till the big reveal. Please join us live this and every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern to talk more about this episode and any Trek news going on. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider a like and subscribe below. I've been your host, Dustin Wing, and until next week, keep your friends close and your Delta shifters closer.